University faculty are hired to produce the ideology in people. They call that work research and teaching, respectively. That's politically sensitive work, and university bosses don't trust just anybody to do it. There's a lot of weeding out on the road to tenure. And we do need to focus on tenure because professors don't really have academic freedom until they have the protection of tenure. Tenured professors are people who have been selected through multiple rounds of processing and scrutiny. As undergraduates, they jump through all the hoops to meet their institution's graduation requirements. They made it through graduate school, which is a repressive intellectual boot camp emphasizing conformity. Any graduate students here? Not many. They're too busy doing their assigned work, I guess. There's about a 50% dropout or kick-out rate for students entering PhD programs, and this weeding out is not politically neutral. To put it bluntly, the programs favor ass-kissers, students with a politically subordinate attitude, those who will be the best servants of the status quo. Professional training is abusive because it attempts to break individuals into playing a politically subordinate role to ready them for employers. Independent thinkers are given a hard time. Our future tenured professors went a step further as graduate students by tailoring themselves to conform to the expectations of the gatekeepers of tenure-track jobs. And finally, they went through the tenuring process itself, which is another years-long process of working to please others and weeding out. So professors are professionals who have additional free expression protection, the academic freedom, but they are selected through additional rounds of scrutiny. Those who remain after the multiple and protracted rounds of weeding and transformation are so intellectually and politically timid that they don't need the protection that tenure provides. Thus, the people who need academic freedom don't have it, and those who have it don't need it because they have nothing provocative to say. So the intellectual and political timidity of professors is one reason why academic freedom is rarely used. The other big reason why academic freedom is rarely used is that intellectual workers don't need academic freedom to do what they are hired to do, which is to serve the hierarchy of power. Mainstream intellectual workers don't need political freedom to do their creative work. And they don't demand that their employers allow them to exercise political freedom in their work. Only when intellectual workers have an independent political agenda do they need and demand freedom, because only then might their creative work displease their employers. Scientists are a good example. During Joseph Stalin's reign of terror in the Soviet Union, tens of thousands of scientists and engineers were arrested, imprisoned, and sometimes even executed. Yet, Soviet science advanced rapidly and came to lead the world in many fields, including mathematics and theoretical physics. Until the mid-1950s, some of the Soviet Union's most eminent scientists worked in prison laboratories. At the height of the repression, Soviet physicists did work that later won them 5 Nobel Prizes. One of these physicists, a Soviet citizen named Peter Kapitsa, had been living in England for 13 years when, upon a routine visit to the Soviet Union to attend a conference, Soviet authorities seized him on Stalin's orders and wouldn't let him return home to England. Within a few years of that kidnapping, Stalin had Kapitsa running a Soviet laboratory and doing the most creative work of his career. When the young physicist Andrei Sakharov was sitting at his desk at Azimuth 16 doing his famous work in theoretical physics, he would gaze out the window and see brutal armed guards with dogs marching rows of political prisoners to their jobs at the scientific installation, which was the Soviet equivalent of Los Alamos National Laboratory in the United States. Years later, Sakharov became a dissident, and that's when he described what he saw out the window. But it was unusual for a scientist to become a dissident. in the Soviet Union. Even when the Soviet Union was on the verge of collapse, the leaders of Soviet science sided with the old order. Scientists don't need academic freedom to do their creative work. They just need funding. This is true for service intellectuals in all fields, not just science. Intellectual workers don't need academic freedom to service the status quo, which is what they have been hired to do, but they do need academic freedom to do what they should be doing, which is questioning what they have been hired to do and working instead in the public interest. If salaried intellectual workers want to make a difference in the world, if they want to make the world a better place, then they have to do things beyond the service work that they have been hired to do. That's what activists do, things that they weren't hired to do.